it's a bit funny, isn't it, really?
It is a bit, but you're going to end up knowing a lot about me.
You don't look like an elected community board member for Golden Bay.
I'm just being myself. It's just how I feel comfortable, and often people will judge me. I get it a lot, not so much in the Bay. No, I don't take drugs. I don't. Well, oh, yes, I do actually. I do coffee. Coffee's the drug of choice, and it's been a long time since I smoked any pot. I stopped smoking marijuana 22 years ago, and that was a good call for me. I haven't drunk alcohol since I was 19. I always felt uncomfortable eating meat. I had an auntie who absolutely loved her cats. She was the mad cat lady. Why does she love her animals so much, but she eats other animals? I'm vegetarian, almost vegan. I do like blue cheese. I do like my cheese. It's good cheese. And I knew that I could get all the nutrients I needed, and it gave me a good opportunity to be creative in the kitchen. Ananda is 22, Makunda is 16, and they're great boys, and they've been living with me since their mum left. And I also have two stepsons, Stuart and Ben, from my first marriage. And I'm just reconnecting with Stuart again. He's been in Australia for 15 years, and he's come back to New Zealand, and we're just making a nice connection. He's just had a son. I've had just three major relationships in my life. With Stuart and Ben's mother, Heather, I married her. We were married for 5 years. And then I was together with Amrita, the boy's mum, for 8 years. After that, I got together with Clair, and we were together for 11 years. And she was a great stepmum to the children, to the boys, and we had a great time.
And the Big Muffin Serious Band, with a song you might be familiar with, but not this version, perhaps.
Well, Fresh FM's been a very, very long journey for me. I just like to serve. I like the idea of serving the community especially, which again fits with the community board, because you do get a little bit of payment, but it's not, it works out about $1 an hour if you're actually doing your job properly. Serving the community through the radio was also a very important aspect. This is a showcase gallery for Golden Bay artists, and it wasn't necessarily about selling stuff there. It was about showcasing it, so people would come in, they'd go, wow, I like this person's work. Do they have a gallery? Do they do more? This colour wouldn't fit with my work, but I want to see what else they also do, and I'd send them off to the gallery. I couldn't do it without Ananda, my eldest son. He has been absolutely there every time with me, every Saturday, and we get up around 5 o'clock, and we get in there by 6. And we pick up the trailer, which is stored in town because it's quite big, and I don't want to drive it too far. And we set up all the stalls and the whole infrastructure, and people turn up. And it's like a mini festival. It becomes this mini festival, this little bit of a fantastic little event every week. And we have people come from Nelson and Motueka to sell their products and their produce. And we have people within Golden Bay. We have travellers turning up. And it's become a really, really fantastic market for Golden Bay. When Shirley started it, she ran the market for a few years and then sold it to a guy called Peter Pontier. He asked me to come in and bring a PA system and do the buskers stage, so that we had a buskers stage, and I did that for quite a number of years, maybe 5 years. he fell in love, and he followed his heart and his true love back to Holland and needed to dispose of the market. Now, how can you buy a market? I hummed and hummed. It's a big thing to buy a business, you know, and I was a little bit wary about it, and it's a big commitment, you know. And in the end I did, and I had a bit of help to purchase it because I didn't quite have the money, and I had some kind offers from people in the community to help me, and away I went. In the beginning was noise. Noise begat rhythm, and rhythm begat everything else. So when I first came to the Bay 30 odd years ago, I was a cigarette smoker, another drug, and I quit cigarette smoking, and someone said to me, hey, your lungs will be much better for it, but this will help, and they gave me a little juice up, doing, you know, and I started playing it, and I was playing at a festival, and some people came up to me at the festival after I'd been up playing it. That was Susan Halkin and Ramsey, and they basically introduced me to drumming, and every week we'd go down to the Pohara Hall and do Afro-Caribbean dance for an hour and a half, and it was a massive workout, and the rhythms that I was taught were fantastic. They were amazing rhythms that had, and I didn't realise that whole world existed. Bought a chainsaw and I started hollowing logs out, and that was a dangerous thing, and experimenting with the skins and different types of skins and how to remove the hair and how to best fix it to the thing. And in the end, you know, I made over 1,000 drums, and I sold them. They're all over the world probably now, and I was in several bands. The two noteworthy ones was Grio, which was a West African / Afro-Caribbean percussive band. We played in front of 20,000 people at the Wild Food Festival one year on the main stage at 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. And that was a highlight, you know, and having these African guys come up to us after the gig and say, hey man, you're playing our music, wow, this is so cool. And it's like, okay. Started playing Eastern European gypsy music with Roger and Beatrice, and we were called Folk Fire, and we played for 7 or 8 years doing that project, and we travelled around the South Island many times. At that point I've been carving patterns around the drums and really working with the wood, and so I started wood carving. I started making mushrooms with the chainsaw, because I still wanted to play with the chainsaw, and I made hundreds of mushrooms and sold them, wooden mushrooms for people's gardens. And I'd always dabbled a tiny bit with a bit of Oamaru stone, a little bit of serpentine. And I was on the crew for the Whitecliff Music Festival with John Brignole for 10 years. Two of the people I met at the time were Andrew and Jane Dixon, and they were the people who were a big part of the crew at Whitecliff. And at the time they were living in a little tin shed on the property that is now the Muscle Inn. Andrew still, said to me one day, he said, do you want to come and do a battle with us? And I said, what do you mean a battle? He said, we're the Thane Sewing Circle and Terrorist Society. And I went, okay. And we had all these crazy names, and we dressed up and we went over to Mapua, and we had this battle with paper swords and flower bombs, and it looked absolute chaos, and it was one of the most fun things I'd ever done in my life. I met the Wizard of Christchurch, and I met all these interesting people, and one of the people I met was Graham Cairns, and he was the Laird McGillicuddy from Hamilton, and he had also stood for Parliament. I'm going to give you the title of the Thane of Goldenia. And so my political career was launched. Turned up at a meeting with an old television set, and I put that down because we weren't getting any airtime on TV. I put that down and I stood on the TV and said, this is the only way you're going to see me on TV this year. Materia Ture, she stood for the McGillicuddys up north. People like Jacinda Ardern, they couldn't have not seen us. They were kids growing up. They were young people growing up, and they saw what we were doing. And who would have thought years later I'd actually stand for the community board and really get in. And am I using my Milagilakari philosophy? Well, I am actually. It doesn't go away.
First met him in 1981, and I was a track worker at New Zealand Railways. And we used to get paid every fortnight. And the first time I met Grant was a little man behind the little iron bars behind the door, and you had to give me your name, and we had a number, can't think of the number, and he would give you a book, you would sign it, and then he'd give you a pay slip.
And I worked at Coker's Hotel as a silver service waiter and house bar and wine steward. So when I came to Golden Bay and I got a job at the junction for a few months, that was okay. Then I went and worked in the kiwi fruit industry here for a year, and then I retired. I grew up mostly in Springfield. We moved to Springfield in 1966. My parents did. My dad was section officer or station master at Springfield Railway Station, and I went to Springfield School for pretty much from year 1 at 5 years old right through to the end, which was, back then it was Form 2. And then I went to boarding school, Timaru Boys High. I spent 4 years at boarding school, and then as soon as I finished school, I went to the railways. Okay, so I'm adopted. So my mother, I was conceived up in the Bay of Islands. My genetic father, he was the hotel owner that she worked for. It was back in 1960, 61, and she decided that, because back then it was a bit frowned upon to be a unwedded pregnant woman, and so she ran away from up there and she went down to live with her auntie in Winchester, just out of Temuka. And I was born in the Temuka Maternity Hospital, 2nd of May 1961, 10 past 6, and she never really saw me, but I was just taken away, and that was it. And I spent two weeks in there, and then my parents came from Ashburton, Chertsey actually, just the other side of Ashburton. They came from Chertsey and they adopted me from the age of 2 weeks onwards. I met my birth mother many years later, and I'm really, really grateful she gave me up for adoption, because she would have messed me up so much. It was the best thing she ever did. And I'm really grateful to my parents who adopted me, because they were really good people. They took this kid, they took me as a baby, and they just gave me wonderful, unconditional love, set me up for the rest of my life. The planet will keep living even if we're not here, and that's kind of important. If another life form becomes the dominant life form, it's perhaps not going to be as destructive as we are, and maybe that's better for the planet.